Hi, and welcome to Game & Read.
For this week's discussion video, we're talking time travel and changing the past. Peter read 11/22/63 by Stephen King, and I played TimeSplitters 2, which came out in 2002.
Yes, so I'll be starting us off. I read 11/22/63 by Stephen King, published in 2011. The general premise is a high school teacher in 2011 is tasked to go back in time through a mysterious portal in the back of a diner, and is tasked by a friend of his to stop the Kennedy assassination. The portal drops him off in 1958. Kennedy assassination was in 1963, and in that time he is supposed to eliminate whoever's going to kill JFK, Lee Harvey Oswald. Is there another conspiracy? We don't know. So my thoughts on this book, I really liked it. It's also the longest book I've had to read for Game & Read. It was, this copy is 1,080 pages,
Yay!
which I think is over at least double our previous highest in just generic pages. But I really liked it. I had to cram a little, but at the same time I made sure I actually got done with it, and I was really happy because I really enjoyed the ending and towards the end and all that, so I was really glad that through this I was able to force myself to read it a little bit. I think one of the reasons I liked it a lot was because it's not about just the assassination. Yes, that is kind of the jumping off point, but so many other things happen, and I would consider this a different story than one about time traveling to stop JFK. It's really about a couple other themes that I don't necessarily want to drop. There's a big theme about relationships and stuff, and that's what I really clung on to, definitely towards the end. And I thought it was really good overall. I gave it 4 stars. There were just a couple of small needly points that stopped me from giving it a 5. I found, even though I liked the main love interest person, I found her to be a little too perfect at times. And well, it was, you know how there's the idea of like the manic pixie dream girl. It's kind of like the 50s dream girl person. And while she's great and I think a cool character, it just felt a little too good. No, not enough faults with her.
Right.
But I'm not going to fault her too much for that. I still thought it was really good. And yeah, there was one other thing for 4 stars. It is a long book. I thought there were times it felt a little padded, not excessively so, but it seemed like it could have been a bit more concise at times, and I was like, okay. But for the most part, it was great. There was just a few points, and that's what made me give it a slightly lower mark, but really a good book overall, and definitely not what I expected, so don't go in thinking, this is a historical fiction. No.
It's Stephen King. You should never go in thinking this is a historical
But you see 11/22/63, it's got a big JFK on the front and stuff.
True.
You think, oh, this is all about the assassination. Not entirely. A chunk of it, yes. A lot of it, not. But yeah, that's my brief little review about it.
So I played TimeSplitters 2. I guess there's a TimeSplitters 1.
I've never played that. I love TimeSplitters 2.
That. So the general premise of TimeSplitters 2 is that you play as a number of different agents in different time periods and geographic locations, and you are trying to stop these alien monster
called
things,
the TimeSplitters.
Called the TimeSplitters, who are trying to mess with the past, the future, the present. They're trying to mess with time, and you're trying to stop them.
That's their way of like taking down humanity, is to go back in time and mess with stuff.
And forward. Well, I guess we don't know where we're starting.
You start fairly forward in the future. So even though there are a couple levels that are in the future for present day, I think they're still technically the past. Maybe not. I don't know.
Either way, you're trying to stop time from getting crazy. So it's a first-person shooter. I hate first-person shooters.
First for the series.
I hate first-person shooters because I can't aim very well, and first-person shooters are loud, and I always get killed because I don't see who's coming to get me because it's first-person view. So I was not very optimistic about this game when Peter gave it to me. However, I grew to really like TimeSplitters 2. One of the things I do really like about it is that there are a variety of levels. So first off, the style of each of the different levels and time periods and places is really different and really cool. So each one, you can tell they really tried to make it distinct to that place and time, which I really appreciated because you are just shooting people, right? So it's not like you're doing that much different. So it was consistent in the mechanics, but it was really a lot of variety in the levels, which was really neat. I also really liked that not every level just wanted you to shoot everyone. So there was one level where you had to follow a hacker around and get into a lab.
Escort mission.
And you couldn't get noticed by her, which meant you couldn't shoot anyone. And that was great.
It was a stealth mission.
Yeah, it was great. It was super fun.
I forgot there was a stealth mission in that game.
Because it made me do other things. So it wasn't just shooting. It was sneaking, and one thing you have to go and turn on switches for things, and so it's got a variety within the whole shooter aspect, which I thought was really nice, especially for someone who is not a super first-person shooter kind of person. It was nice to have the variety in the skills that I used.
One thing I'd like to add is that this is definitely, it's a shooter from 2002. So this is before, Modern Warfare, Call of Duty. The Call of Duty was still making World War II games at this point, and it is a bit of an arcade style. The levels, you can go back and jump into them real easy, and are only so long in their entirety. It definitely could be like an arcade game where you pick a level and then you play for 10 minutes or whatever.
And that was another thing I really appreciated about it, was that kind of arcade style, because I could just go in and play one level and then call it a time and go back later. I could play 4 levels, and it was not that long.
Yeah.
It didn't take me that long. I also really liked that I could set the difficulty. So I played all the levels on easy because I'm not a very good shooter, and I still failed some of them a couple times. So that was a really nice feature. Something I didn't love about it is that the mechanics were not always super easy to understand. So when you get multiple kinds of guns, you cycle through them, but you also have this like radar thing, but you also have to cycle through that.
You have a radar gun. It's really weird.
So it was really clunky to get between weapons, to get to my radar thing. That messed me up a bunch of times. Other than that, I really thought it was fun. It was a fun first-person shooter.
Yeah.
I completed it, which was great. The end was kind of anticlimactic. The last level was kind of lame.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
They definitely framed this game a bit around the multiplayer, I think, because I remember playing this primarily split-screen multiplayer with my friends. I don't know if I ever actually completed the story back when I got this game, Christmas 2002, because I would just invite friends over and then we'd shoot each other with crossbows and stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of racist, but that's...
Well, just the level with the crossbows, you were shooting natives, and it seems a little racist. But I meant like in the multiplayer, you don't have to be native people or a white, explorer being like, I need your temple, let me shoot you. But anyway.
Either way, I thought it was a fun game. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because I don't really like first-person shooters.
Looking at it again, it looked fairly smooth considering its time period.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, putting them together, how would you rate it?
Good.
Yeah, we thought it was okay to good. They definitely handle time traveling slightly differently, whereas TimeSplitters 2 is very quantum leapy. You're jumping into a person in that time period rather than just staying yourself. 11/22/63, Jake Epping, the main character, stays himself throughout the whole time, Jake. And he only goes to one time period, one specific moment, and then forever on after that.
But that's also what makes this a good pairing, is that they bring 2 different perspectives to time travel and changing the past. So Jake wants to change the past in a very drastic way. I mean, he wants to stop the assassination of a president.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. And in TimeSplitters 2, the agents want to preserve the past. They don't want these crazy things happening. So I think these are really great together because they complement each other. They can exist in the same universe.
Definitely.
And not exclude one another. You can have both in tandem, and I think that was a really nice kind of pairing because it rounded it out. It rounded out the concept of time travel and changing the past in a really nice way.
Even their own, like their methods of time travel. TimeSplitters 2, it's like this portal in a lab. It's very science-created feeling. Whereas 11/22/63, it's this thing that the guy who found it, Al, who's friends with Jake, he calls it the rabbit hole because it's just in the back of a closet. He walked down there and plop fell into 1958, which that seems like a weird universal. It's described at one point in the book as kind of like a bubble in space-time kind of thing. And I thought that it was nifty that it's two very different ways. One's like weird universal forces, whereas one is very much man-made time portal. We are sending you there with a machine. One final thing I'd like to say is that when Aaron wanted to recommend me 11/22/63, I started looking for different games with time travel.
Because 11/22/63 is my favorite book.
It's a good book, and I understand why she wanted me to read it, and I'm very happy I read it. However, there are not enough games about time travel.
We want more!
It was slightly difficult finding like a somewhat recent game, especially one that I was somewhat familiar with or had played before, where it's time travel as a theme rather than as a mechanic. So Braid is a time travel game, but not really. You're going like
You're
small
controlling
amounts.
time.
Yeah. And that's not really the point of 11/22/63.
Not even a little bit.
Taking somebody from one point, putting them in another point, and dealing with that kind of issue. So, I demand another TimeSplitters game, which is with a more modern feel, maybe more up to date with things. The other AAA games out there, but still kind of quantum leapy, going back in time, or something similar by another studio. I would love to see that happen. I feel like with Assassin's Creed and stuff like that, it's much more period piecey, but I think it'd be really cool where somebody gets fully displaced and they're dealing with it as a game in the way that you would be dealing with it in a game where you're like, I've got no information. How do I learn about this? I want to see that happen.
We also, on this episode, want to talk about the 11/22/63 miniseries that's on Hulu, and it premiered on Monday, February 15th, which is President's Day.
Yes,
Look
the day
what
of
they
this
did
recording.
There. So we watched the first episode, and I thought it was good.
I liked it for the most part. It stars James Franco as Jake Epping, the teacher who gets sent back in time. Produced by Stephen King and J.J. Abrams. And it's pretty good. The first episode was an hour and 20 minutes. Didn't seem quite that long.
No, not at all.
But it sets up the general arc of the main story with a few tweaks, I think, just for storytelling purpose and the fact that it's an adaptation. And they changed a few things that I was like, wait, what?
There were definitely a couple of moments in this first episode that did not happen in the book.
Yeah.
And if they're resolved in a nice way, I think that they could really be a nice addition. If they are not resolved, then I think that it was kind of useless, right? Like at this point, we've only seen the first episode. We know what happens because we've both read the book.
Unless they completely change it.
Unless they completely change it, which I will be devastated.
I'd be kind of bummed. But I think one of the issues with this adaptation will be, in the novel, there are these things where Jake calls it the past likes to harmonize, in which there are like coincidences. So he'll meet like a bunch of people named George, or one guy here who's a pawnbroker, and this guy who looks just like him is also a pawnbroker, and stuff like that. And I think the way they kind of tie those into the adaptation, the TV show, will be more visual rather than descriptive and different things like that. So I think that's how they're going to have to really kind of handle it. They're going to have to like put the same background images at different times maybe. Or I'm not a filmmaker in any sense, but I think that'll be pretty interesting to see how they kind of take that theme and turn it into an 8-part series.
And in 11/22/63, the book, Jake is the narrator. You're reading it from Jake's point of view, which obviously, unless you have narration in the show, they have the challenge of how do we communicate with the audience the emotions, the thoughts, the sensations that Jake is feeling without having a overhead narration, which would be so annoying to have the overhead narration.
James Franco just talking the whole time, and then I did this, and you see him do it.
And so I'm glad they didn't go that route. But that is an extra challenge of how do they translate a first-person novel with lots of layers into a third-person 8-part miniseries. Yeah. It will be interesting. We'll keep you updated on our thoughts.
Definitely, during our checkpoints, because I think they're just doing 1 episode a week for 2 months. So, yeah, check that out every Monday on Hulu.
So that's all we have for this episode. You can find all of our other videos and our other content over at gameandread.com.
And you can check out our Twitter pages. I am at Nerd in the World.
And I am at emerch.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.